Hey again, it's Mr. Lum, and we're going to be starting our chapter 10. So, this is going to be our first unit in this is going to be our first unit in Math 10, and it's called Graphical Representation. So, it's just about reading graphs and a little bit about making graphs. The first graph that we're going to be talking about are broken line graphs. And broken line graphs are kind of these lines here that, kind of go up and down and are all connected and all that kind of stuff. And they can tell us a lot about, what is being discussed and that kind of stuff. And we use graphs a lot in the world. So here is our first graph right here. And this graph is about the stock market. And what we can see is that we have the time is on the horizontal axis, or in other words, we call the x-axis. And the amount, or in other words, the dollar value, is on the y-axis, or in other words, the vertical axis right here. So this is going to be our x-axis, y axis, or your vertical axis. Okay. And so what we can see from this graph right here, we see even though it's going up and down, up and down, up and down throughout this, we see at the beginning here a general trend going up. Okay. And then we see a general kind of instability but plateauing. And then we see a sharp decline going down. Okay. So in the stock market wise, if you could go back in time and do everything, and this is probably a very famous kind of recession that occurred in 2008. But if you go back in time, you'd probably want to pull your money out in that July, October, between these two quarters in 2007. And then what we see is the market took a big, big hit and then went way, way down. Okay. So there's a bit of a story. There's a historical story, and there's reasons for why it went up and went down, and housing market crash and all that kind of stuff. But you can look that stuff up later. Anyways, so let's take a look and try to figure out what is going on with the story that is from this graph. This is a little bit easier graph to kind of to see. So notice the title and the labeling. What are they telling you? So it says net income by month for 1 year. So net income means how much money they are taking home each month for 1 year. So in the month of March, they took home $600. Okay. And in the month of April, they took home $800. So they made more money in April than they did in March, and then went back down to 600 and so on and so forth. Okay. So this is telling us, so what are they telling you? How much money taken home each month. Okay. So money taken home from each month. So there's, we'll learn more about this later, but net income means after your deductions. So after you pay your taxes, after you pay your employment insurance and your CPP and all that kind of stuff, how much money do you actually put into your wallet? Okay. So that's your net income. In what 2 months did Trevor make the most net income? So what 2 months are the highest? And let's take a look at this. So it looks like right here, these are the highest two values right here. And this was in the month of December and November. Okay, so we're going to say November and December. Let's write some amounts too to it. So if we go up to November, and it's in between 2,000 and 1,800, so we're going to say, so in the month of November, we'll say 1,900. Okay, so $1,900. And then here for the month of December, it's between 2,000 and 2,200. So we'll say 2,100. Now, why would they be making more money in November and December than they make in January, February, March, April, May, and all those kind of things? So this is where the storytelling part would come in, or you need an explanation of why is it like this. And the we don't know the actual reason, but you can come up with maybe a whole bunch of different guesses. So maybe Trevor sells Christmas trees. Okay, and people are really buying those Christmas trees in November and December. So he has huge sales in those months. And then still has pretty decent sales in January. I'm not sure who's buying Christmas trees then. Or maybe instead of he sells Christmas trees, maybe he just sells trees. And so he gets the Christmas tree sales in November, December, and then people are still buying firewood for January and February because they're still cold months, still a little bit chilly month here, and then here maybe some spring and summer or warmer months, so people don't need to buy all that firewood. So maybe he doesn't sell Christmas trees, maybe he just sells trees. Okay, um, so a lot of different maybe kind of explanations for this. Maybe he has a hot chocolate stand, okay, and sells more stuff when it's colder out. Okay, so a lot of different explanations that we can come up with, a lot of different guesses, but this graph can kind of help us guide us with some of those guesses. Okay, so from March to August, Trevor's net income was relatively low. Suggests 2 reasons why this might be so. Again, it's warm out. So if we're going to stick with he sells trees, it's warm. So no firewood needed. Okay, so maybe something like that. Other students have said, like, instead of saying sells trees, some people have said he runs a snowplow, and lots of people need their stuff plowed in these times right here, and maybe he's just doing like mountain passes and stuff like that in the spring and in the summer. So that could be another reason there. So going down the list, when we draw a graph, we need to decide which variable is on what axis. Okay. So here we've already determined that this horizontal axis is called the x-axis. This axis right here is called the y-axis. Okay. Now, the x-axis is I'm going to write the answer right here. It's the independent variable. That means it does not depend on anything. So the month of March doesn't matter if he's selling trees or not, it's still the month of March. Okay? And if we said that Trevor did snowplows, if it's the month of March, it doesn't really matter if he's selling trees or not. It's still the month of March. It's independent. Time is independent. It doesn't depend on anything. Now, on the y-axis, it's the dependent variable. That means if he is selling trees, it's going to really depend on what month it is if he's selling trees. So if it's November, he'll sell more trees. So that y-axis is very dependent on what month it is. It's very dependent on the independent variable. Okay? Now, we're going to skip this one kind of thing right here, and we'll come back to another video. But here's another question right here. It says, the graph below shows the average snowfall in Saskatchewan by month. what month has the highest average snowfall? So again, typically the independent variable will be on the x-axis. Time is usually and always independent. It doesn't depend on anything. How much snow we're getting, it really depends on what time of year it is. So this is the dependent variable. So again, what month has the highest amount of snowfall? Well, it looks like it's December right here, okay? And we see that it's at 21 centimeters. That's December. How much snow fell at that month? Well, we already wrote it here, 21 centimeters. During what 3 months is there no snowfall in Regina? These 3 right here, June, July, and August. During what month is the average snowfall approximately twice as much as the average October snowfall? So we're going to look up where October snowfall is. Okay. And it's right there. So that's 5, 6, 7 right there. So you want to see something that is twice as much as that. So in other words, 7 times 2 is 14. So we're going to look at 15 here. So here's 14, and we see right there. And pretty much that one right there. So I would say February and maybe November. Okay. Jacob owns a small appliance repair company. He tracks the company's net profits over a 10-year period, and he examines the data, and just like that. So first off, we're going to make a broken line graph. I have a little bit of graph paper right here for us to kind of work on. Now, the biggest thing is that when we're setting up a graph, we have to figure out which one of these 2 values is independent and which one is dependent. Okay. If you ever get something like time is almost always the independent variable and should therefore be put on the x-axis. Okay. So we're going to put time here, and time is going to happen to be the year. Okay. So I'm going to start with 2000, and then we have 9 years. So it's going to be 01, 02, 03, 04, 05. So 2009. Okay. Now it says profit in the thousands of dollars. So we'll say profit as well in the thousands. And we're going to go up by, I think, let's say we'll go up by 5s here. Or say 10, 20, 30. Something like that. Okay. So we're going to graph this. So I go to 2000, and then we make a dot on 5. Okay. So that was 2000 and that 5. And then we have to go 2001 and then 15. So 2001 and then 15. 2002 and 18. 2003 and 35. 2004 and 40. 2005 and 38. 2006 and 42. Oops. I need to follow those lines a little bit better. 2007 and 20. 2008 and 58. 2009 and 65. And I definitely missed some of my lines, got them a little bit mixed up. So, anyways, then connect the dots on your graph. something like that. So that's what our graph looks like. Now, is there a general trend in the data? That means if you were to make a prediction of what 2010, 2011 is, could you make a prediction? And I would say the answer is yes, you could make a prediction. Okay. If so, what is it? Going up. So overall, this trend, it is going up. Now there's an exception, or a couple little exceptions right here. There's a small dip in the graph at this point right here. There's a very big dip in the graph at this point right here. So are there exceptions? Yes. Okay. There is a small exception in 2005. Big exception in 2007. Okay. Now, there's small dips in there. Not every year is going to be a super profitable year, but overall, we can see that this thing is going up. Now, if we had a graph and the graph kind of looked like this, okay, I would say that there is no trend, okay, that we don't know if it's going to go way up or if it's going to go fall further or what it's going to do. So there'd be no trend in something like this. But here, with a small exception, there is an overall trend of going up. Okay.